Hi, everybody. My name is Linda Abraham. I'm going to be presenting Get Accepted to Wharton. A little bit about me. I've been an MBA admissions consultant since 1994. I've been quoted in Poets and Quants, the Wall Street Journal, U.S. News, Bloomberg Business Week, Business Because, Business Insider, and CBS News, and other places regarding MBA admissions. I'm also the co-founder and was the first president of the Association of International Graduate Admissions Consultants. Now, what's motivated me for the past 25 years to help applicants like you through our free resources and paid one-on-one advising? Well, it's emails like this, which was for the services of Natalie Greenblatt Epstein, who will be joining me later for the Q&A. And that happy client wrote, I want to share the good news that I got accepted to Wharton and I was offered a significant scholarship. First of all, I cannot thank you, Natalie, enough for your guidance through this process. I didn't even want to apply to Wharton out of fear of rejection, but thanks to you, I submitted my application, interviewed, and got a scholarship. I will forever be grateful for your assistance through this process. And this person was also accepted later to MIT Sloan. And it's one of the hundreds of, not thousands of letters that we've gotten over the years. So getting back to my question about what's motivating my commitment to this field, my enjoyment of this field, it's the fact that we're making differences in people's lives. I'm looking forward to sharing my 27 plus years of admissions experience with you today. Before we begin, I want to mention a few to-dos that will help you maximize your time here and one that will help us improve these webinars. First of all, one more time, if you've not downloaded your webinar worksheet, take a second to do so. I suggest that you print it out. It'll help you take notes, follow along, and also I think record ideas that come to you during the webinar, okay? 2, we're going to use the question window for you to ask your questions. You can do so at any time during the presentation. The Q&A will be at the end of the presentation. To answer my open-ended questions, which I'm going to have several of during our masterclass, please post your answers in the chat window. Okay, so your questions go in the question window, so I can go through them really quickly at the end, and your responses to my questions will go in the chat window. I also want to mention that you can win. We're going to have a contest towards the end of the webinar based solely on content presented during the webinar. So stay tuned. And the prize, by the way, is a free consultation with me. When you leave, you're going to receive a brief survey. Please fill it out. We value your feedback. If you have not yet, this is the last time, I promised. If you have not yet downloaded your worksheet, take a second to do so and print it out. It will help you get the most from today's presentation. You can use it to jot down notes and ideas as they come to you both during and after the webinar. Page 1 contains a table where you can really start work on your application and think about it strategically. The admissions committee wants to learn about you throughout the application, and you want to make sure that the different elements portray different aspects of you. I recommend that you write down your ideas on the Post-it note and then put it in the box that you find most appropriate. That'll allow you to move things around really easily, but that's obviously up to you. You can just use pen and paper or pencil and paper, or of course, a computer. Now, let's do something really simple as a warm-up here. Let's test your hand-raising skill. Please raise your hand if you are here because business school, and specifically the Wharton MBA program, will launch you on the career trajectory of your dreams. Again, raise your hand if you're here because Wharton's Business School will launch you on the career trajectory of your dreams. Okay, well, most of you are here for the right reasons and know how to use Zoom. That's great. Okay, we're going to put your hands down. And oh yeah, I almost forgot something. This is important. We do have a special for you today, $100 off any order over $1,000. The coupon code is Wharton for me. And you can choose either hourly services, accepted or acceptance packages, flat rate services, anything over $1,000, whatever combination you want. The coupon code is Wharton for me. And this is valid through August 22nd. So you have till Sunday, through Sunday. Okay. Before we start, I want to get a better sense of where you're at in the application process. All right. So we're going to launch a poll now. And it asks, where are you at in the application process? Are you planning to apply round 1, planning to apply round 2, planning to apply round 3 or for deferred admissions, and planning ahead for next year and later? Let's see where we end up with that. Okay. Again, the options are planning to apply round 1, planning to apply round 2, planning to apply round 3 or for deferred admission, and planning ahead for next year and later. And we're at 66% participation. Can we get that up? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we're going to close the poll. And it's 33% are for round 1, 17% are round 2, nobody's applying round 3, and 50% of you are planning ahead for next year. Congratulations. Okay. All right, and now the next poll. How committed are you to applying to Wharton? The options are definitely, probably, maybe, and doubt it, but I'd love you to convince me otherwise. Again, how committed are you to applying to Wharton? And the options are definitely, probably, maybe, and doubt it, but I convince you I'd love you to convince me otherwise. And anybody else want to vote? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, let's close the poll. With 68% participating, almost 70% of you are definitely applying to Wharton, so a very high level of commitment, even for those applying next year. 15% is in the probable category, 8% is in maybe, and another 8% is in doubted, but I'd love you to convince me otherwise. All right, that's great. Although I turned down Wharton for the man I love, many of you would turn down a lot to go to Wharton, and with good reason. Wharton presents an amazing breadth of educational options and career opportunity. And it really is an embarrassment of riches. And I'm not sure if this is good or bad, but Wharton's mean GMAT is 733 for the class that entered in 2020. That's per the Wharton website. Now, some say Wharton is just about Wall Street. And I say that person knows very little about Wharton. Wharton has a dizzying array of options and programs. Wharton Lauder, the 3-year joint MBA JD, customer analytics, innovation, entrepreneurship, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Wharton is a finance powerhouse, that's true, but it is not only a finance powerhouse. It has a flexible curriculum that prepares its graduates for a broad spectrum of careers. It is a premier program with an impressive alumni network and placement record. And unlike some of its competitors who have acceptance rates of under 15%, Wharton has a 23.1 acceptance rate per US News for the class that entered in 2020. And that slightly increased acceptance rate, which is actually roughly 50% higher, represents opportunity for qualified applicants. It's still not easy to get in, make no mistake. All right, it's rejecting little over 4 out of every, over 3 out of every 4 applicants. But that is still somewhat better than some of its competition. The rest of the webinar is going to discuss how you can take advantage of that opportunity. So my plan for the rest of the presentation is to go through the 4 key parts of our framework for acceptance to top MBA programs and apply that framework to Wharton. You can use the strategy framework on other top MBA programs also, but the tactics today and the focus is going to be strictly on Wharton's 2021-22 application. I'm also going to issue various warnings and caveats along the way. The first one is that you are not going to get in by waving a magic wand. A dab of makeup won't do it. That won't work either. And spin won't work either. This is not tennis or ping pong. But you need to submit a substantive application. And by substance, I mean competitive qualification and an effective presentation of those qualifications. In other words, you need to demonstrate fit. Your overriding aim is to show that you belong at Wharton. Now, let's dive into the nitty gritty. How do you intend to show? I realize I'm going to talk about it for the next 40 minutes, and I want you to put it in a chat window. But how do you intend to show that you belong at Wharton? In the chat window, please. How do you intend to show that you belong at Wharton? Anybody want to share? You have to have given it some thought. By the way, if you put it in the question window, I won't even see it right now. I don't have it open at the moment. Okay, nobody wants to share. All right, then I'll just go on and tell you what. Up here we go. Thank you, Daniel. Seeking to understand all teammates' perspective. That's a good one. Anybody else? That's part of it. Okay, let's go on. The first thing you're going to need to show is that you have the ability to handle the academics. Wharton's admissions committee director usually has presented almost annually at AGEC's annual conferences and sometimes at webinars that AGEC hosts for schools to present to consultants. And they have emphasized continually that they want to see academic preparedness. The easiest way to show that academic preparedness is through your undergraduate transcript and test score. And you want to be ideally at or above the averages for accepted students for both grades and test scores. If not, how can you convince Wharton to accept you with below average grades, essentially showing them that you have that ability? Well, let's start with the GPA. Realize that averages, in this case 3.6 on the US 4.0 scale, are what they are because some were accepted with below average stats. Roughly half, not exactly, I realize that, but roughly half were accepted with GPAs below 3.6. However, the farther away you are below the average, and if both your grades and test scores are below average, the less likely it is that you can effectively demonstrate that you can do the work and not struggle with basic academics. So what can you do, let's say, about a problematic undergrad GPA? You're not going to redo it. I went into this in great detail at Acceptedcom/137, 5 A's for your low GPA. I'd recommend that you go and listen. For those of you who are concerned about this, go and listen to that podcast after the webinar. If your quant skills are weak, but your grades are basically good, you're the proverbial poet, maybe like me, you took the minimal amount of math as an undergrad, consider something like MBAmath.com, HBS Online Core, quant courses at a local college. It could be statistics for business, calculus, if you have and remember the prerequisites, economics 1, accounting 1, any of those classes. Any of those classes would help you with, in the event that you don't have a strong math background. A high test score can also mitigate the impact of a low GPA. For the top 10, including Wharton, ideally, you want to be at the 80th percentile in both quant and verbal, whether your grades are good or below average. Again, that is an ideal. It's not a requirement. It's not a line in the sand. It's an ideal, something to aim for. If you fall significantly below that and your grades are significantly below that, you're going to have to show academic ability somehow, and it gets a lot harder. If you're not sure whether to retake your test score or not, please see either of these two resources, that GMAT GRE score. The first one, as you can tell, is a short video. The second one is a full webinar that I did basically on the who should retake, who shouldn't retake, when, etc. Somehow, some way, you need to show you can do the work effectively and not struggle with either basic math or communications. Again, Wharton wants people who can both calculate and communicate. So that's part 1 of the framework. Part 2, have a realistic, clear idea why you want an MBA from Wharton and how you intend to use it. Professional direction is the second thing that Wharton Admissions Committee said Wharton is looking for in the application. So as you, I'm sure all realize, essay 1 asks, how do you plan to use the Wharton MBA program to help you achieve your future professional goals? You might consider your past experience, your short and long-term goals, and resources available at Wharton. The question is obviously and very clearly about your professional direction. Now, the classic short-term MBA goal is, what do you want to do? That's the function. And in what industry do you want to do it? That is normally what schools want to see, and I think Wharton does also, in terms of what do you want to do immediately after you get your MBA. In the words of Blair Mannix, Wharton's admissions director, on her 2019 Admissions Straight Talk interview, she said, we want students to do self-reflection on why they want this degree. We want students to explore the pivot moment when they decide they want to do this and unpack the talent and treasure they can bring to the MBA. Spend the time and really think about the top 3 things you will get out of this program. That's great advice for any program, by the way. So Wharton is interested in the realism and feasibility of your goals, not that they want to rein in your ambition, but they also, and your reasons for wanting to attend Wharton. The key point is that your application as a whole, not just your resume, not just your essays, but as a whole, must allow the admissions committee to see how your previous education and experience, when combined with the Wharton MBA, will allow you to achieve what you want to achieve. Because the schools want to know that they can help you succeed. Mary Ellen Riley, Wharton's Deputy Vice Dean of MBA Admissions and Financial Aid and Career Management, wrote, "Our hope is to give applicants ample space to more fully explain their aspirations, goals, and how Wharton fits into those." They want to be able to, you need as an applicant to be able to make it easy for the admissions committee to connect the dots between your past, Wharton, and your desired future. So that's part 2 of the framework. Part 1, have the academics that show you can do well at Wharton. Part 2, have a goal that requires a Wharton MBA and that you show requires a Wharton MBA. And then part 3, show that you share Wharton's values and have the character it seeks. Now, Wharton's DNA consists of, or I should have say has the following elements because there's more to it than this: incubate ideas, drive insights, and create leaders. That is what they want to teach. That's what they want to do. Let's unpack this a little bit, okay? Incubate ideas to transform business. Wharton is very proud of its innovative nature. You combine that innovation with Wharton's incredible commitment, really very impressive. Not that the other schools don't have it, but I think Wharton is somehow more into it. Combine that innovation with Wharton's incredible commitment to assisting its students to make the most of their Wharton MBA experience. And you have a program that is one of the most flexible and incredibly rich out there in terms of options. It's rich. Each 216 student cluster has its own advising support network to help you, if you're in that cluster, make the most of your Wharton experience. And that includes the academics, the leadership elements, the career elements, and the student life options. They're all covered. Wharton has one of the few programs with a dean of innovation. And indeed, the team-based discussion, which we'll get to later, was a result of an initiative from the Innovation Office. And that commitment leads to relevancy for you. How are you going to take advantage of the flexibility in Wharton's curriculum to prepare yourself to achieve your goals? That's part of that first question. Now let's turn to driving insights at Wharton. Wharton wants you to derive insights and reinvent decision-making. Wharton is committed and has been committed for quite a while to analytical rigor and use of data in decision-making. You may view it as dull or dramatic, but it animates all discussion at Wharton, so you'd be better off if you think it's dramatic. When have you used analytics, analysis, or data and resulting insight to solve a problem or improve a process? Because that kind of activity is what you're going to want to highlight in your resume, or perhaps ask a recommender to mention. And then Wharton also wants to create leaders to change the world. And indeed, it has a very, very innovative leadership training program, well developed. It's been around for years. So as an applicant who's trying to show that you share the values, be prepared to show yourself as someone who has led successfully, who can take advantage of what Wharton offers in this area, and who intends to lead in the future. Now, Wharton is also global in both its student body, alumni network, and educational opportunities, COVID permitting. Wharton has an incredibly large global network consisting of 99,000 alumni in 153 countries, organized into 77 alumni clubs on 6 continents. Its international education opportunities can be short and intensive or extensive and immersive. There are also dual degree programs, interdisciplinary programs like the MBA MA through Wharton Lauder, and the partnership that Wharton has with the School of Advanced International Studies at Johns Hopkins, or another partnership with HKS. There are also, again, COVID permitting, international exchange programs at 18 partner schools in 15 different countries. So if you have international work experience, extensive personal travel, or a multicultural background or experience, highlighting that will show one level of fit with Wharton and what Wharton considers important. Wharton is also very, very proud of its student-led culture. Oh, there's, I also had a podcast about Wharton Lauder. This is not a sit-back, spoon-fed student body. Between learning teams, cohorts, and clusters, it requires participation. And the Wharton Admissions Committee at AGAC, again, I was really struck by the administration's attempts to respond to student input, to customize the student experience, to help the students make the most of those many opportunities at Wharton. including community involvement. So think about the times when you were engaged with your community, however you define it. When did you initiate and innovate? When did you collaborate and contribute? Because Wharton wants to know, as its second as that question indicates, how you will contribute at Wharton and when you have contributed in the past. It wants collaborative givers in its student bodies, not just takers. You can take, that's fine. That's what you're there for. That's what you're paying for. But you also have to be willing to give. Now comes one of my warnings. There's a big difference between mouthing platitudes or spitting back websites or even quoting this webinar and actually showing that you truly share those values. The former, the spit back, mouthing platitudes, etc., that's just gift wrap. And you know what gift wrap does? It hides what's inside and it ends up getting thrown out. So spamming them with phrases from their website or mantra-like repetition of the cluster system and innovation won't do it. But examples in your essays, bullet points in your resume, your letters of recommendation, responses to interview questions should in total show that you both have what Wharton is looking for and can benefit from what Wharton offers, and that you share with Wharton a belief in what's important. To me, and I've been doing this a long time, Wharton is about breadth of experience and has been for as long as I can remember. Yes, blue chip experience is valued, but blue chip experience plus small business or entrepreneurship, that's gold. Multiple languages, working in different parts of the world, making the time for professional and personal commitments, all that enhances your attractiveness at Wharton. And of course, rigorous database analysis. Now, I'd like you to take a second and write down ways in which you could demonstrate one of these qualities that we've been talking about. Okay, could be leadership, use of data, global, right? Initiative, innovativeness. But don't just write down the term, write down an experience that demonstrates it. Okay, this is for you. You don't have to share this with me. Multicultural, visited 20 countries. Excellent. Daniel did share it with me. That's really great. Gillen, you asked about 5/8 for your low GMAT. I would go back to the GMAT webinar that I gave that was on an earlier slide. You can tell your friend about that. You're welcome. All right, another warning. If you focus on rankings or brand, you will obscure this fit aspect of admissions, and that obscuring will contribute to you focusing on the wrong things. Yes, Wharton knows their brand. They know their ranking. You don't need to tell them about it. The result will be that you will blend in. You want to stand out in a positive way. You want to show that you have the distinctive experience and perspective to contribute. Wharton has lots of applicants. So I was talking about the 23% acceptance rate before, and that's higher than other schools. It still is really low. And at the current application volume, it rejects slightly more than 4 out of every 5 applicants, or slightly less than 3 out of, actually it's slightly less than 4 out of 5, slightly more than 3 out of 4. That leads to my last strategic point. You want to demonstrate that you'll be able to contribute to your learning team cohort cluster and the greater Wharton community, and ultimately make the school proud to have admitted you. So the admission committee's key question as they're evaluating your application, once they're satisfied that you can do the work, is what can they add to the Wharton community? And indeed, that's exactly what SA2 asks for, but it can really be addressed in other places in the application also. So what's the best way to do that? Well, if you reveal a habit of contribution throughout your application, then you're doing it. When have you made a difference, or where have you made a difference? And if you could put that in the chat window, I will comment on it and provide some feedback. So Anshika wrote that she makes a difference by running her own company. And if you want to share it to everybody, I think that'll be better for everybody. If you wanted to share it to me, that's fine, but or hosts and panelists. I would ask you, Anshika, how many people are you employing? What kind of revenue are you having? What kind of revenue growth have you experienced? You want to concretize and quantify your achievements as much as possible. Anybody else want to share? Where you have made a difference or made a contribution. An example I just thought up, this is made up. You were president of your fraternity or sorority and raised more money for its favorite charity than the organization had ever raised. And you can give a percentage also. Or does it matter if this mostly comes from Rex? It doesn't matter. I mean, it's not bad if it comes on Rex, but I would say, why didn't you mention it yourself too? The Rex should be kind of confirming what's in the application. They can also add, but there should be some overlap between Rex and the application. Here's another example. Since taking over my father-in-law's business, I increased sales by 20% each of the last 3 years. Anybody else want to share a time that they made a contribution? 200 employed, 50% year-over-year growth in the past 5 years, mentored workers' daughters in education. Okay, that is much more impressive. Can you hear it? I sure hope you can. How much more impressive to say, run a company employing 200 people with 50% year-over-year growth in the past 5 years. Far more impressive than running my own company. Anybody else want to share something and I'll comment? Over 10 years of volunteering for nonprofit for refugees and newcomers. Excellent. Very good, Katerina. I would like to know how many refugees or newcomers you've helped. I'd like to know what country you've done it in. It's good. 10 years is great. Quantify your achievements and contributions. Okay. Over the 10 years of volunteering, I've helped 100 newcomers and refugees to whatever country, let's say it's the United States. That would be better. Okay. You're welcome. All right, let's move on. Let's also touch on work experience. Do you have the work experience quantitatively and qualitatively that will allow you to contribute in class and on team projects? Now, the average amount of work experience at Wharton is 5 years. The range is 1 to 14 years. If you look at all the people on the planet who have work experience in this range, obviously there are millions upon millions of people that would fit that bill. So while yes, the quantity is relevant, the quality is going to be far more important. And when we talk about qualitatively competitive work experience, it has to be work experience that shows the level of responsibility, the leadership, contribution, and initiative and innovation that Wharton values, or at least some of those qualities. And this is really important, above average progression on the job. That's the substance of showing that you can contribute. But there's also the matter of effectively conveying that substance. I'd like to do a little thought experiment here that will show you how to effectively convey your distinctive experiences. It's not just enough to have them, you have to relate that. Okay, so let's put up a poll. How many of you have, and you can choose multiple choices here, worked in finance or consulting, traveled outside your home country, volunteered, I should say since in college or since, should have been there too, or none of the above? Okay. How many of you work in finance or consulting, have traveled outside your home country, have volunteered in college or since, and none of the above? All right. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And close the poll with 69% participating. 88% have worked in finance or consulting. 81% have traveled outside your home country. 75% have volunteered, and none of you could say that none of the above apply to you. So you can stop sharing right now, and we can go to the second poll, next poll rather. How many of you, and again, you can choose multiple options if relevant, work for a money management firm providing IT support, have consulted for pharmaceutical companies exploring entry into markets, I think in South America, yes, it says, have shadowed a special needs child at your place of worship? Okay. Again, the options are work for a money management firm providing IT support, consulted for pharmaceutical companies exploring entry to new markets in South America, have shadowed a special needs child at your place of worship, or none of the above. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, with 62% participating. 7% have worked for a money management firm. Nobody has consulted for pharmaceutical companies exploring new markets in South America. 13% have shadowed a special needs child at your place of worship, and 80% of you said none of the above. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. So the question now is, what's the difference between the two sets of questions? In the chat window, please. What's the difference between the two sets of questions? Right? Being specific. The second set is much more specific. That's right, William. What happens when you write in specifics? Second set is unique, much more, yeah, much more distinctive. Good, Queensley. Is more personal, more impactful. You differentiate yourself. Exactly, Anshika. Exactly, Dibyandu. You differentiate yourself 100%. That's my point. Do you see how specifics differentiate? If you focus on specifics, whether you're in your essays, your your boxes, your resume, whatever, you will naturally stand out and you will reveal yourself to be the unique individual that you truly are. You don't have to do something crazy. You don't have to swim the English Channel. You don't have to climb Mount Everest. You don't have to dress weirdly. You just have to describe yourself specifics. So, are you an engineer or a transportation engineer? Are you a consultant or a healthcare consultant? Did you volunteer or did you found a new organization to address a specific need in your community, however you define your community? Now, let me ask this because this is a rhetorical question. Why is distinctive contribution important? Because admissions at elite programs is a two-step process. First comes evaluation, determining who is qualified, and top programs always turn away students whom they know can do the work. The Wharton website used to say, in any given year, approximately 3/4 of candidates are admissible based on academic factors alone. Now, they don't have that on their site anymore, but I don't think the reality has changed at all. They take this group of applicants that they feel can do that work. They look for other elements of fit, and then they start, and here I'm actually quoting an article from a different school, crafting a class determining which candidates to admit among those evaluated as highly qualified. Now, those key people who will thrive at the program, they're academically qualified, and add to the community are the ones who are going to get in. Those who will give as they take, benefit themselves and the community as a whole. So, what's the implication for you as a candidate applying to Wharton MBA program? Recognize that Wharton has no reason to admit someone without something distinctive to contribute. No benefit to accepting someone lacking a history of leadership and growth in multiple arenas. Remember the importance of breadth that we discussed a minute ago. No benefit to accepting one without a record of past impact and contribution. Now, at this point in the masterclass, I'd like to review the 4 strategic steps you need to think about before and while putting your application together. Number 1, demonstrate you can do the in-class work and excel. Number 2, have a clear, realistic idea why you want an MBA from Wharton and how you intend to use it. And 3, show that you share Wharton's values and meet its criteria. 4, demonstrate that you'll be able to contribute to your team, your cohort, Wharton's community, and ultimately make the school proud. Now, let's look at the specific elements of the Wharton application. I already touched briefly on the grades and transcripts. Let's look at other elements. All right, first is the job and activity history. Wharton wants a 1-page resume in PDF, and that must be, under 10 megabytes. For Wharton in the job history, it's pretty much the facts and nothing but the facts. There's little room to elaborate on motivations or lessons learned or significant experiences. Both Harvard and Stanford actually give you more space. You must make the most of the 1-page resume to show impact, contribution, and leadership. And the best way to do that is by quantifying your achievements. Focus on achievements and not mere descriptions of responsibilities. Again, Wharton is interested in, and I'm quoting, demonstrated leadership and management skills and your potential for growth. So let your resume, which frequently is the first thing that admissions directors look at, make that impression that you are a person who has demonstrated leadership and management skills and has enormous potential for growth. Your activity history similarly should show that you belong in an institution that is proud of its participatory culture. And finally, as I've tried to emphasize throughout, quantify your impact whenever possible. Wharton also asks, how many employees do you supervise? Please explain this number briefly. There's a screenshot of the app. They give you about 100 words there. A succinct, straightforward answer is required, but even here, try to show impact in your response and reveal challenges you faced. For example, led a cross-functional team or international team with X remote members in Y countries and Z time zones. Now, today, leading a remote team is pretty much the norm, but there's no question that when people are in multiple countries and time zones or international, you're dealing with cultural differences as well, then you're dealing with greater challenges, okay? Wharton also gives you 500 characters to say why you left a particular position. The best reason is promotion and more responsibility. Now, Wharton also, let's move to the essays. Wharton has 2 required essays, 500 words for essay 1, 400 words for essay 2. You have an optional essay, which also is 500 words. And there's also the reapplicant essay if you are a reapplicant. Is anybody here a reapplicant? You want to raise your hand if you are? Okay, looks like we don't have any reapplicants here. Okay. Oh, well, we do. Okay, great. So you have an extra 250 words. The essays are a great place to show fit, to reveal some of the qualities that Wharton values, and to show the professional and collaborative elements that the admissions committee is looking for. Now, let's go into the questions themselves. Essay 1. How do you plan to use the Wharton MBA program to help you achieve your future professional goals? You might consider your past experience, short and long-term goals, and resources available at Wharton. This is a connect the dots question. It's really getting to the heart of that second part of the framework. Get ready, get set, and think. What are you trying to achieve? Given what you've done in the past, what elements in the Wharton program, career placement, and community will help you realize those dreams? How can Wharton help you? Think about it. Think about its career strengths. Think about its curriculum, the classes, professors, programs that support your goals. Think about the extracurricular opportunities at Wharton, the clubs, the events, the tracks, assuming that we can, again, COVID permitting. And as Blair Maddox said, as I quoted, choose the 3 most significant. You don't have to provide a laundry list, the 3 most important. Throw out anything that doesn't relate to your most important points. If the essay is still too long, then focus on your most important goals and the most important elements of Wharton's program to help you achieve them. Obviously, you need a focused, concise response to present your professional goals and how Wharton will be the vehicle for their achievement. Now, think about the differentiators we discussed in terms of data, global, et cetera. Don't spit back a list of Wharton's programs, but do thoughtfully tie the most important elements of Wharton's program to the achievement of your goals. Again, I'm going to quote the Wharton Admissions Committee. They want to get a feel while Wharton is the right place for you. You don't have to regurgitate the website. They don't want you to regurgitate it. They don't want a list, but you should be able to connect thoughtfully the school to or rather, they should be able to connect their school to your direction after reviewing your application. You can start with your goal in terms of how to structure the essay. You can start with your goal and how it developed, and then discuss what Wharton what aspects of Wharton will help you achieve it. Or conversely, you can start a different way. You can start with a pivotal moment, perhaps an achievement, when you realize your goal that embodies the impact you hope to have by achieving your goal. State the goal and then focus on how Wharton will prepare you to take the next professional step in achieving it. Let's turn to essay 2. And it says, taking into consideration your background, personal, professional, and or academic, how do you plan to make specific, meaningful contributions to the Wharton community? And it has 400 words, so it's getting shorter. This question directly relates to the community element that the Wharton Admissions Committee seeks, as well as the fact that while Wharton wants to know what you hope to get out of the program, it also wants people who will contribute, who participate and give. It wants givers and takers, not just takers. So the question boils down to, what would you like to contribute or create? What impact would you like to have? In order to get the information necessary to answer this question, I would encourage you to connect with current students. You can go to events that Wharton has online. You can contact the admissions office. You can look up clubs that you're interested in. They almost all have contact information for current Wharton students. You can go on LinkedIn and look for current Wharton students. And then as you think again about how you would like to contribute, would you start a new initiative, grow something that has stagnated, or is at Wharton on its website only? Would you add your creative experience and perspective to an ongoing project, club, or event? How has something that you've done in the past shown that you have the ability to do what you want to do while also highlighting your teamwork and or leadership skills? Now, a possible structure for this essay would be to start with the influential experience. In other words, what would provide evidence you can do what you can do, and then tell the story, highlight your impact, and then discuss how it will enable you to contribute at Wharton. Now, note in this question that, let me just get back over here, it's and or academic, taking into consideration your background. You don't have to tell your whole life story, just a few elements. How do you plan to make specific, meaningful contributions to the Wharton community? So again, keep it focused. And then we have the optional. Please use the space to share any additional information about yourself that cannot be found elsewhere in your application that you would like to share with the admissions committee. The space can be used to address any extenuating circumstances or questionable academic performance, areas of weakness, etc., that you would like the admissions committee to consider. And again, you have 500 words. Now, Wharton emphasizes that this essay is truly optional, but it's also a wide open question. Any additional information and an opportunity for you to share something you'd like them to know that isn't elsewhere. I think the key here in this question is additional information. Don't use it as a grand finale. It should not be a waste of their time, but you can use it to provide context for a bad semester or other negative or questionable element in your application. And I think it's broad enough that you could also, if you don't have a negative element that you want to provide context for, I think it's also broad enough for you to perhaps discuss challenges overcome that didn't zap your GPA or that didn't damage you professionally. Just some challenge that you faced and dealt with. Now, if you are a reapplicant, I think we only have one reapplicant here, so I'm going to go through this quickly. Please use this space to share with the admissions committee how you've reflected and grown since your previous application and discuss any relevant updates to your candidacy. So this is a very typical reapplicant question. The key here is, how are you a better candidate today than you were last time when you were rejected? In order to respond to any of it and all of these questions, do your homework about Wharton. Each one requires an answer that is specific to the Wharton program. So comb the brochure, comb the website rather, read the brochures, follow the Wharton on social media, attend the online events, speak to current students and recent alumni, have coffee chats, and then you'll have the information to respond intelligently and effectively to these questions. And this is something that we work with our clients on all the time. Now, recommender choice. Wharton wants 2 recommendations and it has 2 from 2 people who have supervised you closely and know you well. They emphasize that the title or position of the recommender is not as important as his or her ability to comment knowledgeably and specifically about you. Now, about 4 years ago, it might even be 5 years ago at this point, Wharton changed dramatically what it is requesting of recommenders, but it is clear that it wants an example in the open-ended questions. So it has a list that it wants them to fill out and 2 open-ended questions. At AGAC, Wharton emphasized that the recommendation to a certain extent is a misnomer. They're really looking for perspective and insight into you as an applicant from someone who knows you well and professionally. It is not intended to be evaluative in terms of the recommender evaluating you. The interview. So at Wharton, you can expect both a short individual interview and the famed team-based discussion. Now, the individual interview is a personal conversation. It's not intimidating. It's brief. They may ask for feedback on your team-based discussion because the personal interview usually follows the TBD. You should prepare questions to ask before the interview so that you can ask the alumni. Probably it will not have reviewed your application. Questions that you might have. The TBD is a 35-minute exercise. It's a group interview in which you'll be asked to basically come up, it's like a mini team project. You'll be asked to come up with a proposal or a specific idea. And here I'm quoting, as a team who work together to achieve a tangible outcome. Now, the TBD is about helping the group provide a successful response. The most effective participants in a TBD, and we used to have mock TBDs, encouraged others to, the most effective participants encouraged their team members, contributed when they had something constructive to say, listened well, acknowledged others' points of view and contributions, respectfully disputed when necessary with facts. They did not hog airtime. They were not strutting their stuff. Is the exact opposite. They went into the team-based discussion rather, I think, with confidence in what they knew and humility in face of their teammates and the group. Again, I'm going to emphasize an effective interviewer in the team-based discussion focuses on the team's success, not their own air hogging. Okay, this for lack of a better word, not their own feathers. It's the team success that counts. Now, you definitely want to contribute to the team success. You don't want to sit there like a wallflower, but you have to do it in a way that shows a certain humility along with confidence, self-knowledge, and self-awareness. Now, let's go back to your goal in submitting an application to Wharton, and that is to show that you belong at Wharton. And at this point, we're going to have that contest I promised you at the beginning. So the first three to answer the next question correctly gets a free consultation with me. Question is in the chat window, please. Okay. The question is, what is part one of the framework that will help you show you belong at Wharton? Again, what is part one of the 4-part framework that will help you show you belong at Wharton? Okay, so Swetha got it, Katerina got it, and then Shika got it. Okay. Right. Very good. Thank you. Let's review the 4-part framework to show that you belong at Wharton. Number 1, evidence you can do the work. Number 2, have a goal that requires a Wharton MBA. Number 3, show that you meet Wharton's criteria and share its values. And number 4, demonstrate you'll be able to contribute distinctively to class discussion, the Wharton community, and ultimately make the school proud that they admitted you. And a final caveat and warning from me. The admissions committee readers are sharp, intelligent professionals. Don't make the mistake of thinking that they're mere bureaucrats. Don't try to trick, fake, or fool. The best presentation of you is an authentic reflection of your achievements and dreams, keeping in mind the 4-part framework that will make Wharton want you. Now, at this point, thank you. At this point, if you could share with me what you found to be the most valuable piece of advice, information, or insight so far in the webinar. In the chat window, please. Information about Wharton's focus on innovation, great. Tips on the team-based discussion. Okay, great, thank you. Focusing on specifics and work experience. Oh, I'm so wonderful. I'm glad you got that, Anshika. Being specific when describing yourself, great. If I mispronounce somebody's name, please forgive me. It's from Anine. Analytical rigor also. Okay, wonderful. The advice about using application portal space strategically. Show impact on the short answer questions on the app. Great, good, I'm glad. Thank you. Thank you for sharing this information. It's wonderful. Realize that a successful Wharton MBA application requires all 4 elements of this 4-part framework, not just one, not just 3 out of 4, because to get accepted, you need to show that you both belong at Wharton, that's parts 1 through 3, and stand out in the applicant pool, that's part 4. This framework gives you the what of a successful application, kind of know what you're aiming for. Now you need to apply what you've learned to your individual circumstances. That's the how. And no book, webinar, masterclass, or download can provide that how because they are general and for the many. But an experienced MBA admissions consultant can help you with implementing the framework and guide you so that you present all 4 elements. You need to show that you both belong at Wharton or whatever MBA program you're aiming for and stand out in the applicant pool. You will benefit from a knowledgeable, supportive mentor as you create an application that as a whole spotlights your achievements and mitigates your weaknesses. an application that accomplishes everything we've discussed here today. Here's what you can do when you use Accepted. You can access expertise and experience, reduce your stress, save time, optimize your application, and mitigate weaknesses. Now, some may say Accepted is expensive, and we're definitely not a cheap service because of the quality of our staff. Actually, Carly, can you post that link right now to the tool, the ROI calculator? But there are also expensive risks associated with not using Accepted. Whoops, there are the risks. Reapplication can easily cost a couple of $1,000s, especially if you have to prepare again for the GMAT or GRE. There's one additional year of pre-MBA earnings that can cost in the 5 figures in dollars. Then there's the potential that you could have gotten to a better program with lifelong higher earnings and network, and that could cost you in the 5 or 6 figures. Every year, we work with applicants who talked to us a year earlier and decided after taking the do-it-yourself approach and getting rejected that they wanted to work with us. Now, they would have been better off working with us initially, and so would you. But enough from me. What do accepted clients say? Here we go. I'm going to read excerpts. Over the last week, I found out that I got into Stanford and Wharton offered me a grant. One last thought I had regarding the Wharton grant. Your help went beyond helping me obtain admission to actually increasing my chances, I believe, of getting offered a merit-based fellowship. Talk about unexpected ROI. I'm really happy. I would like to thank Jennifer once again for her wonderful guidance, without which this acceptance to Wharton booth would not have been possible. These are 3 different people, by the way. Or the last one, I have been admitted to HBS. So far, I have received admission letters from Harvard, Wharton, Duke, Stern, Cornell, Johnson, Darden, and UCLA. I would never make it this far without your professional and timely help. Different people, different challenges, same result at Wharton. Now, I can't say that all our clients are accepted to Wharton because they aren't, but we'd sure like to use the same expert, insightful, individual advising that we use with these successful clients to help you get the same results. And that is acceptance at Wharton and maybe a few other schools. Here's what I'd like you to do after the Q&A. Visit Accepted.com/MBA services, choose the service that's right for you, get the guidance you need, and apply confidently and successfully. I also want to remind you about the special that we have for webinar registrants through August 22nd, $100 off any order over $1,000. It's now August. There's still time before Wharton's round 1 deadline to work with us. There's certainly a lot of time before the round 2 deadline. Contact us ASAP to obtain the help you need, either starting from scratch or reviewing and editing your essays. We share your goal of presenting all 4 parts of this critical framework and showing that you both belong at Wharton and are a standout in the applicant pool. Take these steps to work with an accepted MBA admissions consultant. Now, before it's time for the Q&A, and I'd like to now introduce Natalie Greenblatt-Epstein, who's going to join me for the Q&A. She was former admissions director at 3 top MBA programs before joining Accepted in, I think it was 2008. Her clients love her, and I love the fact that she's here with me today for the Q&A.
Thank you, Linda.
Oh, great.
I have to warn you that we have some monsoon weather rolling through. So if you hear thunder,
we'll know why.
That you'll know why. And if I go off suddenly, you'll also know why.
We'll forgive you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
I didn't discuss this with you. Do you want to do video too, or?
Yeah, I can do video.
All right, let's do video. I think it just makes it more personal.
And you'll see the flashing lights as well from the lightning.
Right. All right. Let's.
All right. I need you to okay me.
Okay. Will do. All right. You should be able to do it now.
It says unable to start video.
Try again. Yeah, there you are.
I just had it. Yep.
Okay. Let me get the Q&A up. Hi.
Hey.
All right. Okay, here we go. So I did see a couple of people post questions in the chat window. I'm just going to ask you to copy them over the Q&A window because it's just going to go a whole lot faster. We'll cover more ground. Anonymous attendee asks, how do you overcome a low quant? I currently have a 322 GRE, verbal 163, quantitative 159, which is 2 points below the GRE median. I have a humanities background with a 3.75 GPA. I've worked in retail banking, MBB consulting, and can show analytical chops across my application. Do you still think I need to do MBAmath.com to show more quant skills? Natalie, what do you say?
So I'd love to see what quant classes you took in undergrad. That might
You take any?
mitigate what you're doing. Yeah, I don't know.
Any
Whoever asked
quant
that question,
classes? She says she was a humanities background.
okay. So, well,
3.75 overall GPA.
Yeah, and you're just 2 points under the
Median.
the median, right? And so, as Linda mentioned, half are above and half are below. It sounds like you do not come from an overrepresented group, because there's not too many. Well, there are humanities majors that apply, but there's not too many. So, and depending on what your work experience is, and if you've had some quantitative work in your work experience, that might override everything. There are, courses that you can take. Linda mentioned a few. I would say that Wharton in particular doesn't give a lot of cred to MBA math. I think they'd rather you took a course, even if it's not at the time of application. If you said you're enrolled in a course and we'll send the transcript as soon as it's available, then that might be helpful to you. The HBS core course is wonderful, but if you're applying in round 1, I don't think you'll have enough time to complete it. So, courses that you can take, but if you have anything that demonstrates that you're analytical, because this is a heavily quantitative school, then and that you can do the work, then I think you want to take those steps.
I also think, kind of along the lines of what Natalie was saying, how would you consider retaking the GRE and trying to raise the quant score? Like, how much effort would be involved in doing that? If it, would be were your practice scores around that 159, or were they in general higher and you just had a bad day? Then I would probably be more inclined to say retake
it.
Yeah,
it's a great point.
If your practice scores were generally in the high 150s for quant, then I wouldn't retake. I would just go with your work experience, maybe take a class depending upon what the factors that Natalie just mentioned. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. But thank you for that. All right, Beneath asks, could you please tell me regarding if a 2-page resume is acceptable if you have a master's or PhD degree and 4 years of work experience?
No.
Okay.
If they're asking for a 1-page,
Wharton,
if they're asking for a
pretty...
1-page resume, they want a 1-page resume. I was working with someone who had a 4-page resume this fall, actually. So over the summer, like last month, basically. And we got it down to 1 page. I think the critical thing that you need to understand is if you have a PhD, business schools do not really emphasize your research. So you could just drop all that research off of your resume and you're probably going to get it down to 1 page, particularly if you have only 4 years of full-time work experience. So,
and I think obviously I don't know what your PhD is in, but you could also, the more theoretical your research was, the less valuable it is from a business school perspective, the more technical it was. But if you managed a lab, that might be something to include on the resume more than the research. Would you agree with that?
Right. Yeah. But that's work experience. That's, not like the research needs to fall off. If you want to include your PhD dissertation, then have it on a line with your degrees. I'm doing show and tell. So just have it on a line with your degree. So it should be, bachelor's degree, GPA, whatever your bachelor's degree was in, master's degree, whatever the master's degree was in. If you had a master's thesis, you can certainly put that in, and then PhD and what your dissertation topic was about.
All right. Katerina asks, is it important to disclose information about parents and why? What if I'm not willing to disclose it? That's
well,
a new one.
yeah, we actually used to ask parental information when I was at Cornell. So let me tell you why we would ask. There were two reasons. One, I wanted to see if the students were coming from like first generation backgrounds, or if they were the first in their generation to have a degree at all, like a higher ed education at all. And then the other side of it was, if your parent was somebody that was affiliated with the university, we'd want to know that as well. Like if they were the, the CEO of a major bank, for example, we would want to know that because we have a relationship with that bank. Or if they are an alum, we'd also want to know that, just to make sure that we're being very thorough about these applications. So if you're not willing to disclose and they're asking for this information and it says that it is required, I think that might be a problem. You may not even be able to submit the application without that information. You might want to call the school directly and see, what their response is.
Okay, great. Anonymous attendee asks, is bringing your expertise in sectors or functions to student clubs enough of a contribution to the essay for the essay 2, I assume in this case? I think you have to be more specific. What's evidence of your expertise? What did you accomplish in any specific sector or function that you could bring? It's not just to say I have expertise or experience. That's the kind of fluff language that doesn't cut mustard. But if you actually did something that shows you have something to bring, then I think you have more of a chance. But Natalie?
Can I make a comment on essay 2? Because I go through an exercise with my clients that I think is really valuable. And it's called the just as exercise. So just as I was able to accomplish X in my undergraduate education, in my community, in my work experience, I will be able to do Y with a club, initiative, my cohort, my study team at Wharton. Okay. I mean, obviously you have to elaborate on this and don't use the just as language because I've copyrighted it. But it's a good exercise to use as you're writing this. The other thing is, don't get caught up with quantity on that essay. They don't give you a lot of room. First of all, 450 words is not a lot of room. And is it 400 words? 400 words? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, the second question is 400 words. Mm-hmm.
Right. It's not a lot of room. So think about 2 things that you did a really, really good job at, and 2 things that you'd really like to do a good job at Wharton, and how you're able to link the 2, right? Linda had that little map of connecting the dots. Well, this is another way to connect the dots. I'm connecting my background with my goals at Wharton, not necessarily my career goals, but my goals at Wharton. And then take a deep dive. Don't list things. That's just not going to make for a great read. It's not going to keep any admissions officer awake. So.
Right. And they got a pile or they used to have a pile.
Right. Yeah. Now they have it all in their computer. It's still a pile, but it's, embedded in their computers. So
it's like a messy inbox.
Yeah.
Okay. William asks, how can you mitigate the fact that you don't supervise anyone?
There's a lot of people that don't have direct supervision over people, but do over projects. And in that case, you are using your leadership skills to influence. Okay. So as long as you have like a vision or a goal for the project, and you're the one persuading or influencing, that works really well. And I would, again, say 75% of my clients who get into Wharton don't have direct supervisory experience. They're not managing people. They're often managing projects or even like a part of a project, in which case, your story is about that part of the project. If you're doing something like just on your own and you've never worked outside of you on your own, then you need to find another source where you've had these opportunities to lead, and to influence and to persuade.
Right. I was actually responding to a comment, so I hope I'm not repeating what Natalie just said, but the two thoughts that occurred to me are, one, whether you formally supervise or don't formally supervise, you might have been a junior person on the team that persuaded the team or management to take a particular direction due to your financial analysis or whatever. That is leadership. It's leadership without authority, which is actually harder than leadership with authority. So that would be an example of leadership. And as Natalie said at the end of her answer, you also might want to draw from other areas of your life. So it might be sports, it might be the arts, it might be community service, it might be a religious affiliation, political affiliation, whatever. Whether if you led a team or you influence decisions, then you've led. I hope that helps. Okay.
And I have to say, on the Wharton application, they specifically ask about
they do.
direct leadership or indirect leadership. And so obviously people that are applying there have indirect leadership and they're still getting into the program. That not everybody has direct leadership, particularly at, an average of 5 years of work experience.
Right. Now, anonymous attendee writes, Wharton's recommendations are quite different than other schools. How can we leverage the two common prompts at other schools to reduce the work of our recommenders? Oh, that is a good question.
Oh, I was just doing this today. So
buy them another box of candy. I mean,
yeah, no,
they're not diabetic. Not as a diabetic.
Yeah. So, Wharton's questions are different. You can actually take parts of the first, you can take parts of actually both common letters of recommendation and use them if you massage them for Wharton. Okay. So one asks, how will this person succeed in the Wharton classroom? So one or at Wharton, in the Wharton community. Okay. So obviously how you succeed at work is also community-based. So your success at work, can be leveraged to demonstrate. The recommenders need to provide evidence and demonstrate that you, based on your historical activities at work, will in fact be able to contribute to the community at Wharton. The second is about your career and the accolades that recommenders provide in, again, the common LOR with the evidence to support them can also be used to support evidence about how you will succeed in your career. I would also have your recommenders touch on specific characteristics, the ones Linda talked about, like your analytical skills. What are some things that you've done that demonstrate your analytical skills? This is something that the recommenders can talk about. Does that fit into how you will succeed in the community, how you'll add value to the community, or does that demonstrate how you will succeed in your career? It could be both. Leadership could be both. So think about this from a characteristic standpoint and the evidence that you want to present, or you want your recommenders to present. Give them give them, hey, remember when I did this particular thing? I mean, I'd write it all down, but remember when I did this? I really felt like this was a great representation of my analytical skills or my leadership or my innovation. So, part of this is you have to manage the recruiting, listen to me, the recommendation process. I've been working on essays all day long, so please forgive me. You need to manage that process and without writing the recommendation. So just, give them information that will be helpful to them. We do have resources on our website about recommendations.
Yes.
And I would definitely look into that to help you. Okay. So specifically, do it by characteristic. What do you think will be the characteristics that are going to help you in the future in your career? And also, what are some of the characteristics you think will help the community at Wharton? And I think a lot of people make the mistake of the Wharton community is thinking like the greater Philadelphia community. I've heard this before from, in fact, some of my clients. No, it's Wharton. They're talking about Wharton. They're talking about your study teams, your cohort, your cluster, your clubs, the initiatives that they offer, their centers for excellence, their centers for research. You really want to go into that and think about the things that really excite you. So if it excites you, then you can tell your recommenders, this excites me at Wharton. And
Great.
they don't have to talk about what's exciting at any other school. So
Right.
that's the caveat.
Thank you, Natalie. Great answer.
Yeah.
All right, let's go on. Anshika has a question. How can we effectively articulate entrepreneurship and family business experience and mitigate the absence of a big multinational corporation on resume?
You want me to take it?
Yeah.
You want me to take it? All right. So I've had several people that have worked from family businesses. So you don't need to mitigate that you don't work for a multinational corporation. You need to demonstrate why working for your family business gives you a unique lens by which to add value to your peers at Wharton. And that, I mean, like, I don't know what your goals are. If your goals are in the family business, you need to have some really lofty goals. So do you want to take this business and create X out of it? I don't know. What is it you want to do with this business? If it's to move out of the family business, you need to explain why you want to move out of the family business. But your unique lens is what's going to make a huge difference in the classroom. And you do have a unique lens because a lot of people are coming from multinational corporations. So
right. And I think, Anshika, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you're the one who was talking about running your own business for 10 years. And I said, well, that's good, but can you give me a little bit more? And you talked about growing revenue year over year by 50% every single year. That's pretty impressive. Now, even if you start with a small number in year 1 or year 0, by 10 years, that number's gotten pretty big. So
think about, I was going to say, think about like small businesses that are now like big behemoths that started as family businesses, and now are big behemoths.
Ford Motors, Toyota,
Suzuki. I mean, Ford, absolutely.
Right. Bank of America,
Goldman Sachs.
Yeah, a lot of them.
Okay. There's a ton. I mean, you could make the argument for Amazon being a small family business, although it was really just Jeff. So I don't know that his brother was all that involved,
Right.
but yeah, think about that. I mean, I worked for a school whose namesake they started as a family business, the S.E. Johnson and Sons. And the grandson, the great grandson, actually, that runs the family business now has 5 degrees from Cornell, including an
Okay.
MBA.
Wow.
So he got his PhD from the Johnson School as well. So he loved Cornell. So he stayed there.
Must have, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Last question, I think, is do you have some leeway on the quant GRE if you have something like the CFA and a GPA of 3.7 in business, or is an extra math class still needed? How did you do in math in school? How did you do in math in school? That's what I would want. Were your grades and on your quant courses? Oh, I'm pretty sure they were mostly A's. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And the CFA also, I mean, I do think the CFA, it's all quant. So that's something that definitely helps that issue. But I'd go back to what Linda was saying in terms of thinking about retaking the GRE, or I didn't, did you
There's
say
a
the GRE
GRE
or the
quant
GMAT?
score that
The GRE
the poster is
yeah.
considered.
So the do you hear that? Can you
Oh
hear
my
the
goodness,
thunder?
I just did hear it. That was the
It's
thunder,
right
huh?
over my house.
Wow.
So we had 70-mile-an-hour winds last night, and like we lost power. 45,000 houses lost power.
Oh gosh.
Anyway, back to you. Just, think about retaking. If you've taken it a couple of times now and you're not making any progress, then, anything you do that's quantitative at work, the CFA, certainly, just bring out all the things that you've done quantitatively, and it helps. On the other hand, this is a chicken and egg issue. You're looking at a school like Wharton because it's ranked really highly, and there's reasons it's ranked really highly, not just for the test scores, but the test scores are part of why it's ranked really highly, and it's one of the few things that the admissions director has control over with rankings. So chicken and egg, that's all I can tell you. And, there's those issues that you have to face, those, kind of psychological issues that happen behind the scenes in admissions, and that may not seem fair, but they definitely look at other things. I would give it a try and take the test again if you haven't done so already, and just focus on that one section.
Sounds good to me. Natalie, thank you very much for helping me out here. I want to thank our guests also for your questions, your time, your attention. And now I have a final thought, a story, and a question from me to you. The thought: there is a paradox inherent to acceptance at top business schools. You have to demonstrate that you fit in and stand out. By fitting in, I mean that you belong at the target school, in this case, Wharton, in terms of your goals, your academics, your work experience, and values, that you're going to be a valuable member of Wharton's community. By standing out, I mean you need to show that you are going to stand out, be distinctive, contribute in a highly competitive, well qualified and talented applicant pool. And that goes back, I think, to the questions that I've asked about the GRE. Show that you're going to contribute distinctively and add a special something to the school's community, and make the admissions committee members proud they voted to admit you. Now, here's another example of client experience. I got an email that we received, or Natalie received actually. I got into Wharton. Thank you, Natalie. I could not have done it without your precious help. I received a nice fellowship too. And this person was later accepted to Columbia, Booth, and LBS. If you want a reliable guide on this journey, who will kindly give you honest, trustworthy feedback and help you get into your dream schools, follow the steps on the screen, which are the steps taken by all the clients you've heard from today. They sought acceptance help and are now pursuing their dreams. Follow their path, take the steps on the screen as they did. We'd love to help you pursue your dreams too. and the question I have for you. You've stayed for the webinar, you stayed for the pitch, the Q&A, you stayed for my question. We tremendously appreciate your time here today. I know you have lots of other things you can do. You're clearly interested in what we have to say. And I'm wondering if you could help me out now and share, if you're not currently a client or planning to become a client, why are you hesitating to engage with Accepted professionally to help you present yourself effectively? You can share that, and you can choose the question window or the chat window. I got them both open at the moment. You're very welcome. Anybody want to share why they're hesitating? Only feel like I need help on essay. Unsure how many hours it will take, though. Well, as it happens, we can offer you a free estimate, which would help you determine how many hours it would take. If you have essay drafts, you probably will do fine with our review and editing service, our hourly editing service. Carly, can you post a link both to that service and to the how can we help you form where where Daniel can upload his essay if he'd like an estimate, and the estimate is free. Anybody else want to share that? Thank you, Daniel. What's causing you to hesitate? Well, most people, I'll tell you, say it's the price. And for that, I'm going to refer you. I'm going to let Carly post this information so that Daniel will know where to upload his essay and find information about, there we go. That's the essay editing service. And on that page is also the form where Daniel can upload the essay for an estimate. And anybody else can too. All right, there's the form. And I'll tell you what, Carly, why don't you, when I ask this question at other webinars, the most common reason given for hesitation is the price of our services. Now, obviously with consultants, the caliber and experience that you've heard from Natalie, we need to charge for our services. And what I would suggest you do, if you want to access that kind of experience, that kind of expertise, that kind of support, then take a look at that MBA ROI calculator, which Carly's also going to post right now. It's free. It's kind of fun, actually. So check it out. And there we go. Okay, there it is. And I want to thank you very much for your time and your attention, your questions, your answers. You've been a great audience. Natalie, thank you also. Appreciate it greatly. Stay dry. Hope the thunderstorm ends. And good luck.
I put myself on mute because it's getting so loud.
Oh my goodness.
So it would have been disturbing.
All right. Okay. Well, I hope you keep your power tonight.
All right. So take care. I've got a lot of work to do. All right.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. Goodbye, everybody. Have a good evening and good luck with your applications.